Hey, this is Greg Dieter checking back in with you, the Soke of Dieter School of Martial Science. Today, I kind of just want to talk to you today about Lesson 2 in the DSMS handbook and curriculum, and that's the use of force and de-escalation tactics. Now, legally speaking, most of the United States views self-defense as when you are the non-aggressive party and you use necessary force to stop the threat to your life, your liberty, your pursuit of happiness, or that of a third party that's unable to defend themselves. Now, the reason I stress that unable part, it's not okay for you to go and fight everybody's battles in a lot of states. In a lot of states, that's going to get you an assault charge. You have to be able to argue that they were somehow, some way, unable to defend themselves. Now, the trick to that is, a lot of it is, it could be a height, weight difference, age difference, experience difference, a level of intoxication, like if your buddy's drunk and you're sober. The point being, if you want to have lawful use of force, you're going to have to be able to explain that satisfactorily to not only a grand jury and a district attorney, but also maybe a judge. Other countries, different laws. I won't even get into that. That's a whole can of worms. That's a long bit of, that's a longer class, we'll put it that way. So, once we've determined that we have a lawful cause to use force against another human being, you have to also ask yourself, is there any way you can de-escalate this without resorting to violence? Remember, a very big part of DSMS is just the idea of avoiding a direct confrontation, okay? De-escalation being what it is, you're going to need to attempt to de-escalate, preferably before your use of force. The best way to do, what I mean by de-escalation, man, let me put that in a very simpler term. Try to talk your way out of it. And if that fails, try to walk or run away or drive away from it. That's what I mean by de-escalation. I mean literally to try to go from he wants to fight or she wants to fight to let's go grab a beer if we have, if you can get it there, that would be great. Yeah, it's not likely, okay? The point is, in order for you to have lawful use of force in some states that have a duty to retreat clause, you need to at least attempt. Now, that's because judges are nowhere near the fight, okay? Most judges are not going to, or politicians, ever be in a situation where they have to fight for their life. So what they write down as law sounds real good on paper, and it doesn't necessarily work on the street. There are some people on this planet that you're just not going to be able to talk down. This could be for a lot of reasons. This could be because of intoxication, because of a perceived slight, otherwise known as the ego effect. Just a lot of different things, okay? Some could be socioeconomic, factors. There's just a lot of reasons why you're not going to be able to de-escalate it. So when that happens, your duty is to come home to your family and to survive the violent encounter. And a large part of that is going to be setting yourself up in a position of strength, okay? In other words, to quote the infantry handbook, choose your killing ground, okay? You don't need to fight on their terms. You don't need to fight at the time and place of their choosing. A matter of fact, in an ideal world, it'd be a time and place of your choosing on a battleground that you pick. That's ideal. So, that said, once you have a place of strength, that could also be just a strategic location where you are. One of my favorite places to conduct a fight from is a doorway, because then there's only one way to get at me. They have to come through me. They can't flank me. They can't get behind me. They gotta come through me. The Spartans figured this out in the Battle of 300, made famous by the movie with, I believe that was Gerald Butler, wasn't it? Anyway, the point being, he made famous the Battle of Thermopylae, but part of the reason behind the Spartan success was that they picked an area where the Persians were forced to come at them directly. They couldn't surround them, they couldn't flank them. Now, a great Marine named Chesty Puller said, well, we're surrounded. That simplifies the problem. Being surrounded is not necessarily a losing scenario. Of course, you're going to have to break through the enemy line in order to survive that particular encounter. But at the very least, you know where you stand. You know where you're fighting at. You know who you're fighting. Okay. When you pick a strategic location to defend from, what the Army Handbook calls a defendable position, the next thing you need to decide to yourself, and this is where situational awareness comes into play, do I have any weapons at my disposal? Unfortunately, the hostile is not going to pick a fight where you've got your bulletproof vest on, your gun, and your knife. It's not going to happen. They're going to do their level best to get you when you have nothing but your hands and the shirt on your back. In the event that's the case, remember your shirt on your back is a valid weapon. We'll get into that a little bit later as we go through the program. But the point being, pick a strategic location, then decide on necessary use of force. I always advocate to my students, be in a position of power. I define that as being in a position to have a terminal resolution. That's a fancy way of saying be in a position where you could choose to kill your opponent if you wanted to. Once you have that sort of position over your opponent, you've dominated the battleground. You have control over that violent encounter. You can choose the necessary force then at your leisure. Maybe you're just going to knock them out. Maybe you're going to, permanently break something so that they're paraplegic and can't come after you later. Or maybe the best solution is to kill the enemy. You have that option when you're in a position to execute a lethal resolution. You do not have that option if you are not in a position to execute a lethal resolution. In the event that you're not in a position to do that, you need to strive your level best to get there. Okay? I had a good friend years ago in Georgia who got into a bar fight, and he knocked out the fella that he got in the fight with. And then, he went back to Fort Benning and forgot all about the incident. And several weeks later, he was back drinking at the same bar. And that fella saw him coming to his vehicle. And rather than get into a fight with him, he just shot him. Straight drive-by shooting. Came up, stopped the vehicle, opened fire, then drove off. Right there in front of me. That is what happens when you don't kill the enemy. In today's day and age, knocking somebody out is not a final resolution. It's just delaying the confrontation. And then what happens is you could be in a position, like my buddy was that Georgia night, to not survive that encounter. So, My personal advice to my students is, if you have reasonable fear of serious bodily injury or death, serious bodily injury being defined as any injury which the impairment thereof lasts longer than 24 hours, I would advise a lethal resolution. In today's day and age, the next time you see that person, you probably won't see them or their buddies coming. Okay? It's very, 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 very important that I drive that lesson home to my viewers, that in the event of a violent confrontation that you have not been able to de-escalate or avoid, then strive for a lethal resolution, as long as you can tell the judge why you were afraid for your life, or serious bodily injury. Serious bodily injury is infinitely easier to argue from a legal perspective than being afraid for your life. The next lesson, probably tomorrow, God willing, will be lesson 3 in the DSM lesson plan and handbook, and that would be control holds, pain compliance. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, what that means, and I always encourage you to like, share, subscribe, and definitely if you want more in-depth information or more in-depth training, come to the dojo. Our rates are very affordable. Right now we're running a special where it's $25 an hour, one-on-one classes, or small group, depending on the nature of the class, and what lesson we're on. Remember, there's 30 core lessons in this program. Constant vigilance, like, share, subscribe. Be blessed, and may harmony find you.